Hello and welcome to another episode of Dance Teachers Academy. I am your host, Jose on the mic, and with me is the lovely, amazing dancer, Anae.
How are you?
I am doing fabulous. Found our way up to Redondo Beach.
Yes.
Actually got a chance to see the ocean.
I
so
know,
that was rather lovely.
And the other lovely
thing and why
about
we're
Redondo
here.
Beach, Carolina Orlovsky.
Orlovsky. How are you doing, young lady?
I'm great.
You're looking fabulous.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
I've been checking out your house too. I mean, this thing is
Gorgeous.
really kind of wide open.
Oh, yes.
And obviously doesn't look like it started out this way.
No, we had to do a lot of work renovating and fixing up a 1989 townhome in South Redondo.
You got a lot of stairs.
We have stairs. It's a tri-level house.
Right on. Cool.
So I'm so glad to have you. Thank you for having us
Of
in your
course.
home on the podcast.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and you have quite a dance background, which is so exciting. I can't wait to hear all about it. We're saved it for the podcast. But let's start. When did you start dancing?
I started dancing probably at home in my living room, watching My Fair Lady. I remember that was when I asked for dance lessons, when I saw Audrey Hepburn in My Fair Lady.
Oh, wow.
I was, born and raised in Toronto, and that came on TV one day, and then I asked to watch it again, and then again, and then again, and every day after school, I think I watched My Fair Lady, and my parents were like, I think she might want to seriously learn to dance. Like they started taking it, because I wouldn't let it go. I wouldn't let the movie go. I wouldn't let moving go while the movie was playing. And I started reenacting the scenes I saw.
And how old were you?
I was 5.
5.
Little.
Wow.
Yes.
Little, yeah.
Yeah.
How about that?
And so then they took you to dance lessons.
They took me to dance lessons, and I was awful. I mean, I remember feeling awful.
See, this is so amazing to hear this because you are an amazing dancer. I've seen you perform and compete, and that she started off awful. I don't know if they're going to believe that.
No, really, nobody starts off good.
That's true. See, that's interesting.
Nobody does, but I started off awful. Most of the girls had already taken dance classes and were older than me.
Oh, yes.
So I felt very out of place, and I had this abundance, I call it boy energy, like really active, jumping, running, kind of a daredevil, wanted to push my limits. And I didn't separate like girls are princesses and behave this way. I didn't have that association with dance. I had, it's athletic, you get to move and jump and fly and roll and spin and become something outside of a normal human. And I wanted to be that.
Wow, very exciting. So then...
There we go.
Yeah, what was your favorite kind of dancing when you were...
I was really attracted to lyrical movement. So I would say, although I loved ballet, I felt very out of place in that genre, and naively in the beginning didn't know I was out of place, because you don't have full body awareness in the scope of, you have to look this way to be a ballerina. Once I realized that I didn't fit the checklist of that criteria, I moved on to more like lyrical, contemporary, musical theater. Those were I loved it all. I loved movement. I picked up character traits really quick, and I was able to copy a style. So if I saw a really talented teacher in front of me and she was stylistically moving her hand a certain way or having some kind of effect to her body, I enjoyed trying to emulate that and taking it on.
Exciting. So how did you get an opportunity to train at Alvin Ailey?
I auditioned, so I went on a trip to Cuba in my senior year of high school after applying to universities and colleges in Toronto, and I got accepted to all of my choices, actually. And then I had to...
There we go.
Then I had to decide, and I came back from Cuba, and the trip to Cuba was all about dancing and percussion, and there's a lot of poverty. In 1997 in Cuba was terrible. It was really bad. And so we went to Santiago and we donated instruments and staff paper, and we danced for the Cuban high school students. They danced for us. It was like a dance exchange.
Nice.
Cultural exchange.
A cultural exchange.
Nice.
And I kind of came back a bit transformed from that trip. Like these people are very passionate about what they do. They don't have a lot of wealth financially, but they're so wealthy in other ways because there's nothing else to do but study there and train and become and push yourself. And they wake up, they live for that. So I thought, this is really, what am I going to do in school? Like, I'm young once, my body's only going to last this long. I could always go to school. It doesn't mean that I'm not smart. I'm just going to use what I've got while I can.
Yes.
Sure.
And then my friend, we were sitting in the car, and she's like, so what are you doing next year? I'm like, I don't know, I haven't decided. And she's like, well, I'm going to New York, I'm going to Ailey. I said, what's Ailey? She goes, Alvin Ailey. They have an independent study program there. You just have to go, I'm going to audition, and I kind of need a roommate. And I'm like, and then I said to her,
set the hook.
I said, I'm going to go. But only if I
And
could
not
get
even
in.
knowing how big Alvin Ailey was.
I had no
but-
idea.
Yeah.
And I told my ballet teacher, and she was devastated when I told her that I was going to do this. And
Instead of ballet, or?
she was devastated because she was a mother, and she goes, you're going to leave your mother and go to New York, and you're going to leave your
Ouch.
family, and you're going to pursue this, and Alvin Ailey is not the right place for you. They will not give you a job. They will not take you seriously. You are going to disappear there. You're going to be one of many. Do you really want that?
Was that so discouraging to you?
Yes and no. I was kind of prepared for that, but
Oh.
I needed a reason to go
Uh-huh.
to New York because, I went to New York when I was 16 in high school, and I remember coming back and saying, I'm going to move to New York one day. I'm going to do this. It was a mecca of art, and a
Sure it
mecca
is.
of auditions, and a mecca of opportunity for an artist to evolve.
Right.
And I didn't feel that connection to Toronto, that I could grow into who I wanted to be there.
Right.
I knew I needed to leave, so I did.
Big fish in a little small pond. You're like,
Big fish in a small pond, exactly.
Yeah, not gonna work.
Not gonna work. So I moved to New York and got into Alvin Ailey and started studying
You
there.
made the audition.
I made the audition, I got in.
had a roommate.
My parents were initially very upset, very devastated. And then but supportive, devastated and supportive all together for many reasons. So they were like, okay, you've got 3 or 4 years, however long your college would have been here is what we're going to give you to do this.
Wow, that is supportive.
And so you go for it, do it, and then if it doesn't work, you've got to reroute. You've got to regroup and figure out what you're going to do that's going to work. And so that was our deal. And so I moved to Ailey. I moved to New York and went to Ailey, and my ballet teacher was absolutely correct about that experience.
Wow. But
was
are you
one
glad
of-
that it happened anyway?
Yeah, because I'm very glad that it happened. I got exposed to Martha Graham and Lester Horton and Dunham, which is Afro-Cuban, Afro-Caribbean technique, and I got to meet Miss Peters, and the ballet was very watered down from what I had been accustomed to, but I got a whole education in contemporary dance that I didn't have in Toronto, to realize I'm probably not going to be a contemporary dancer either. So it kind of weeded, it was narrowing down my focus. And in the meantime, in order to get to Ailey, I would walk from 94th and Broadway to 61st and 11th, which is where the old Ailey is. They've moved and they're very fancy looking now. But back in my day, there was no AC, 100 people in a class, 12 live drummers.
Wow.
Really intense. People from all over the world had auditioned for the independent study program, so you were in a class with people from Israel and Italy and Lebanon and Mexico and Canada, and it was a melting pot of just wonderful young people pursuing a dream and a goal. So
Typical New York.
typical New York, but I would never wish I didn't have that experience. It was an amazing experience. My body was sore and in pain every day. Started at 9 a.m., classes ended at 6 p.m., and it was a non-stop dance day, hardcore dance. And then I would go and I would strangely feel at 6 that I hadn't danced because the training there was so regimented. It felt more like being in a military. Like there were groups of exercises I had to memorize, and then I had to execute those exercises in sequential order. And then the ballet class was very unemotional from what I was used to. So I would then take class again at around 7:30.
Wow.
I take a jazz class or a
Such a
contemporary
dance
class
junkie.
or a hip hop class, like as a release.
Interesting.
As a release to the regime.
Mm-hmm.
Because I needed to just feel like I could move to music and be
emotional.
free. And emotionally like express that. So I was doing that at Steps on Broadway, all on my walk home. And then I would eat something, go home, wash my clothes for the next day, go to bed. I lived in a studio apartment, which was about 230 square feet.
That's a closet.
And I shared it with a roommate. So we each had a single bed. And then there was like a stove burner top that we had for a kitchen and a fridge. We shared a little closet and a bathroom. It was basically a larger version of a hotel room. No walls. There were no walls. There was no room to go in to just be by myself. And then there was a neon sign that was flashing.
How much can we pile onto this?
There was a neon sign that would flash it would be on for a minute and then off, and then on and then off. And then the noise, the street noise, the ambulances, the sirens, the police. I mean, I don't think I got a good night's sleep for 6 months. But then all of that just went away. Like, it was just like a sea of noise that became background ocean music.
Sure.
I'd call Manhattan traffic the ocean. and then the light became, like, I became desensitized to it. And I learned to sleep, but it took time.
That's usually what happens.
And then
now do you have to play ambulance music
no,
to go to sleep?
No, I don't.
Gunfire.
Real ocean noises.
But that apartment was symbolic of my growth as an artist.
Independence.
Mm-hmm. I was free to dance at last. Like the dream was coming true. So I associate that room with dreams. Really, dreams coming true.
Wow.
How about that?
Yeah.
So now you're narrowing down your focus. You're realizing this regiment's not for you.
No.
So is that when you went to the Anne Reinking Broadway theater project?
No, not yet. So
okay.
before that happened, I would, again, around the corner from Ailey, because Ailey was behind Lincoln Center, there was a studio called Danceport, which was in Columbus Circle, and it had a big staircase and a door. And there was a sign with a tango man, like a legend from Forever Tango. Forever Tango had just opened.
Well, Forever Tango was beautiful.
Yeah, they were touring. They were touring around the world. So I had gone to see it in Toronto before I moved to New York, and I was like, partner dancing is just incredible and amazing. And the Argentine tango feels so classical and balletic in so many ways in terms of the way the ankle and the legs and the feet worked. And yet so sensual and passionate because there was a man on the other end of it.
Yeah.
So that was very exciting. so that was thrilling actually for me to see that exchange, and just the way the women looked and moved was so mesmerizing. I was just in awe of it. And the man from the show that I saw in Toronto, his face was on a photocopied poster, and it said, "Come take a free tango class with Carlos Gavito." And I was like, oh my gosh, I think this is the man from Forever Tango. And then it said, "From Forever Tango." And so I walked up the stairs, and he was hosting a milonga. And before the milonga, there was a free class. And that was pretty much the beginning of my love affair with that dance. And I think when he saw me in the class, because there were regular people, and then there was me, who was like a ballet-trained person. So I think I stood out in the way I moved and stepped, and even the way I used my ankles. Even though I had no idea what I was doing in tango, he could tell that there was training. Yeah, there was some training there.
She's been around.
So he asked me...
And she's beautiful.
Oh, yeah, well, there is that.
Well, I was 18 years old on this day. I was 18, and so he asked me where I was and what I wanted, and I said, I can't afford your classes. I can't afford to come here again. I just, because it was a free class and the milonga was $5, I came, but this is amazing. He's like, well, don't you want to learn this dance? And I said, yes, but I don't have the money to pay you for any lessons. And he goes, don't worry about money. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, do you have time? And I said, well, I could make time. And so he talked to the owner of Danceport, and they said that I should come back, that they would, that they could use an intern, in the school. And I said, well, I'm at Alvin Ailey from 9 to 6 every day. And they're like, okay, great. We're busy after 6, so you just show up here right on your way home from Ailey. And so they put me behind a computer and I started doing data entry. And they said, in exchange for these hours, you have unlimited classes here.
There you go.
Unlimited groups. And then some of the teachers who were on staff saw me in the classes, and they, pro teachers are always looking for a pro partner. And I didn't know what pro meant, and I didn't know what amateur meant, and I didn't know what a competition meant. I've never done any of this. So a lot of the teachers, one of them asked me to do theater arts with him and audition because I had a ballet background.
You said, sure, what's that?
Yes. Another one asked me to do international Latin, and I said, sure, what's that? And so another asked me to try doing some tango. And so this was a really fun studio that had 3 floors. So every night there were different parties. So one floor was all salsa, one floor was all West Coast, and another floor was tango parties. And it's still in the city now, but it was kind of my introduction to the ballroom world.
I love that. What a great story.
Right? She's just falling into stuff.
I just fell into everything. That's exactly right. Like, there was no plan. There was just a walk on the streets of Manhattan that led me into certain, literally, doorways.
There's a door here. I wonder what's in there.
Yeah, that's exactly what New York is like.
That's exactly what
that is exactly.
I'm from Philly. I know how this works.
That's exactly. I wonder what's behind this door.
Yeah, I wonder what's going on here.
And I just encourage people all over the earth to open doors and walk in and see what they find, because you don't know what
Absolutely
it would lead
don't.
to.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing.
That's actually pretty cool.
Did you get a chance to actually train with Ann Ranking?
Yes.
Dying to know, because I saw Ann Ranking in B.B. Newirth, as I told you, in Chicago on Broadway, and I was just blown away.
Yes.
The dancer, and not only those two, of course, the other dancers in the show. That's a dancer's show.
Oh, yeah.
Chicago.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
Well, so that whole vaudeville era of jazz and that whole style of movement was obviously brought out by really Jack Cole, Bob Fosse, Gwen Verdon, and Ranking, right? In sequential order.
Absolutely.
So what's interesting is not only did I get to work with Anne, but I got to work with Gwen the year before she died, which was the original 1978 Roxy Hart.
Gosh.
So I was really young, and Anne Ranking had started this project called the Broadway Theater Project, where she toured the United States, and she picked 100 kids that would audition for her, and give them 3 weeks of musical theater training in Florida at the University of Tampa's campus. We were housed there. And we woke up every day for 3 weeks and put on a production at the end. And you were cast as a major, like an acting major, a dance major, and a singing major, depending on the strength. And I was cast as a dance major. I auditioned, and I was one of the 100 kids accepted in 1998, that summer. And that I went to the Broadway Theater Project and met lifelong friends that went on to become Broadway stars themselves. And just kind of started figuring out that I really liked choreography. And I got a group of people together at the project and had them perform in our shows in the evenings together. And I wasn't in them. Sometimes I was if I had to be, but I was already experimenting with music, and I was trying to fuse spoken word with movement, because I really wanted
Look at you.
To, yeah.
Creative.
Right?
Yeah.
How old are you now?
I'm 39.
No. When you were doing this.
Yeah, I was like, we don't talk about that.
Oh no, I'm happy. I think aging is a gift. So I'm 39, happy to be 39, and
I'm saying at the time that you were doing this.
I was 19.
Really?
That's amazing.
19 years old doing all that. That's what I was like, wow.
19, yeah. So Gregory Hines was there that year. Again, the year before he died. So we lost, we lost Gregory and Gwen.
In the same year.
Within the same year or two.
We were just talking about Gregory Hines the other day.
Yeah. And I'm not a tapper. I had very minimal tap dance training, but we had to take his class. And it was he was just an electric, magnetic, charismatic, very giving teacher. A very inspiring man to learn from and just be in his presence. White nights with Baryshnikov and the whole dance-off scene, and it was like I would wake up and be like, I get to go to class with Gregory Hines today. Pinch. And tomorrow I have Gwen for Fosse technique.
I can't believe
so
it.
It was I think all of this informs me as a choreographer and as a coach, and the way I perceive movement is probably very different and out of the scope of people who've only done ballroom, because I have a totally different perspective on movement and emotion.
Because you've done all of it.
Yeah, I mean, making the transition to become a ballroom dancer was definitely challenging. Huge challenges.
Yeah, because there's a man involved.
An argumentative, demanding, all-consuming, attention-needing man. Yes, there was a man on the other side who, in the beginning I didn't have anything to argue about because I knew nothing. It was just tell me what to do and I'll do it, because when you're a dancer in the concert world or even in a musical, you're being directed. You're told what to do by a director. You've got a choreographer, and you're there to deliver. You're there to deliver their vision. So when I first was in any partnership with anybody, my thought was, what's your vision? What do I need to do to make that happen? How do I facilitate this? And
what a wonderful partner.
I had no thought of, this is what I want. That came later, and with that came conflict.
See, that's what happens when you get two brains there. Now it's like, wait, that's not the way I see it. No, that's the way I see it.
But that's the thing that makes it so exciting, and if you can get past that conflict, but that this is something that, I always say that I want to have just an all-girl panel and to talk about that, because what female dancers have to go through with some of these very different, and they're not all that. And I love this creature called man. Oh, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it makes dancing so exciting. But yeah, you've got to get past that conflict and be the team, right?
Yeah. We definitely need each other. I mean, there's ballroom dancing. We need each other. We're two parts of a puzzle that fit, and we need each other to make something magical occur. But there are challenges in communication always, just even in relationships, in life.
That's right. So how did you get past that challenge?
Well, as I said in the beginning, it was pretty easy, and I was a workhorse, so if I needed to practice 6 hours a day, I did it. Like, it didn't matter. It didn't matter the time. It didn't matter if I was tired. I had this unending surge of daily energy that now I have to drink coffee to get. But it was like this.
I understand.
I need a stimulus.
I get it.
I don't know where it came from, and actually it even multiplied itself when I performed. Like, I had to control the energy because I had so much of it. I didn't know how to channel and harness it in the beginning, so I had to learn. I had to learn to do that. With a partner, the first partner I had was actually an Argentine tango partner that I did Argentine tango shows with, and then I went on to do some international Latin, not competing, just performances. And then I was, a friend of mine had suggested I stop waiting tables and go teach dance. And she's like, what are you doing? This is exhausting. You're waiting tables, you're going from audition to audition. Why don't you go teach dance? And I'm like, well, the hours, they're so difficult. How am I going to audition still? And she's like, well, you could work in a ballroom studio. They teach a lot in the evenings and they'll train you. I'm like, well, I'm not a ballroom dancer. All I know is Argentine tango. And so that's exactly why I got hired, because I knew Argentine tango. And she's like, I take lessons at Fred Astaire dance studio. Why don't you go in there and try to get a job? And I did, and they hired me. And so I went to a training class in a studio for Telly and Marina Tarsanov. They had a Fred Astaire on the east side. I went to the training class, but they didn't need another girl teacher. So they told me that I'd have to go to New Jersey to get a job. So now I'm commuting from...
And you did it.
I did it. I commuted from New York to New Jersey, got a job, and that's where I met Felipe.
Okay.
And that was the beginning of our partnership. In fact, when we initially met at that studio, which was in Inglewood, New Jersey, he had moved there from California via Utah to dance with another girl, Christina. And they danced for a little bit when they broke up. In the meantime, I was dancing with Edgar. We had started dating. Eventually, we got together and became a partnership. and we started competing.
And that had many accomplishments.
We had many accomplishments, but we were very different dancers, and this was a problem because we were told from the very beginning, this is likely not going to work. He's a natural rhythmical dancer, and I was a classical dancer. I was skinny and thin and long in my movement and lyrical, and he was rhythmical and aggressive and very Latin and macho.
Opposite. I love that male, female.
It was extremely opposite.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful.
But
it did work.
It did work. Obviously, it did work. It was just challenging because we were told all the reasons all the way through why it wouldn't and why it's difficult and. But we ignored that and we just kept going.
Yeah, now you've had that a couple of times because going back to the story that you said about your original ballet dancer that was really discouraging about you going to New York.
Yeah.
And now you're starting a ballroom partnership and you have all this discouragement. And I find that happens quite a bit. It happened for me, because I'm originally from Los Angeles, and my dance opportunity happened to be in New Orleans. And all of my family said, "Why are you leaving California? You're crazy." So, although they supported my dancing, they're like, "It doesn't make sense why you're leaving California," but you pursue it anyway.
Yeah.
As a dancer, and I think there's something, you have some kind of intuition inside, or I'm gonna do it because if I don't, I'm gonna regret it.
Right. I think dancers tend to operate off of that thought a lot. We tend to be a little bit more impulsive and in the moment, and dancing is something that you don't get back. You dance and it's over, and then you just live with the memory of what it felt like. Even if you watch it, it's not the same thing as living in it and being in it. So we're kind of chasing it over and over again to have that moment again. And that's addictive. And if you need a partner to do that, then you go where the partner is to have practice time and create that together. So unfortunately, you can't, Skype in a partnership.
No, you cannot.
Can't have a virtual meeting. You need to be there.
Hands on,
yeah. And that's very different than going to an audition and being part of a group of people collaborating to make a piece of art together.
And so how did you then get your differences? How did you overcome that and then have success?
I'm not sure we did overcome it. I think we just dealt with it.
You deal with it.
I don't think we overcame it. I think we dealt with it, and I think we had wonderful coaches along the way that helped guide us. We did a lot of work on our own, and there were good times and bad times. There were times when we were, at a stalemate about how to progress and about how to move forward with what we both wanted. There were times when there was a flow to everything and we had momentum, and that fed us, that kept us going. But just a relentless work ethic. I think that's...
You got to put the time in.
You put the time in even if it's unpleasant.
Right.
You put the time in even if you don't feel like you're being productive. You put the time in because you've made a commitment to the work. And I think the way we succeeded in the career portion of that was we put that before everything. Before our personal relationship also, that came first. Even though we didn't think we were doing it. We were putting that before.
I've heard several young people say the same thing or very similar lines.
Yeah.
It's you get one shot at this thing because of your physical.
You've got a time limit.
You got a time limit. So you're on the clock.
Yes.
Your body's only going to hold up for so long, and so you got to go out there and pretty much just, if that's what you're going to do, you have laser focus on that.
Yes, yeah, and that was something we had in common. So I think that's what got us to go forward. And there were times when we were open-minded and listening to the other, and then there were times when it was really painful and hurtful, and it took a toll on your self-esteem. There were those times. There were those times, but I don't think either one of us is perfect, and I think when you're young and determined, you say and do things that you don't always mean in the moment, and then there are things that can't be repaired once they're said and once they're felt that you can't undo.
Right.
or unsay. So I think people have to be careful.
Very careful. You know, this is a person you're talking to, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not like you can just, scream at the door.
Right.
So, so you now have a real passion for traveling across the country with Arthur Murray as a consultant. Are you also training partners? Is that something that you like to do? Is talk to the partners about how you can operate better together?
Yeah, I mean, I coach all professionals from all independent to franchise professionals to all kinds, to rising star, to beginner, to advanced. And part of what I think I have to offer as a coach is understanding how to navigate and be helpful, at least be helpful to what's going on between the partners and help guide them through a language that is effective in really addressing the movement and the dancing and trying to separate that from the other stuff that they're bringing in. Personal things, yeah. I'm there to try to help steer through that. And not everybody has a problem. Some people are very efficient and really determined and clear, and some people aren't in a relationship and they're just dancing together. And some people are in a relationship, and I get all kinds of different combinations, but I just like helping them find their identity, find their voice.
Yes, talk about that. I love that.
So I think a lot of people go out on the floor and they're not in touch with who they are and what they're trying to say that is uniquely them. And they get into this mode of emulating, copying, which is fine. I mean, it's a vehicle. Copying something is a vehicle to make something your own, but as long as it evolves. So I think I ask people, what do you want to say when you're dancing? What do you want to be associated with? If I were to describe you as a couple, what would you want me to refer to you as? Like, what are you bringing to the table that no one else is? What's your thing? And people spend very little to no time thinking about that, especially in the beginning. And I think this is a thought you want to have from the beginning, because you become a brand and you develop an identity and you want people to associate you with that. Like, I know what I'm getting when I buy Coca-Cola. I'm getting a very sugary, caffeinated, jolt of energy.
Sure.
So I'm getting that.
So what's Carolina?
Carolina is extremely expressive, I believe passionate, and emotional. Unafraid to be vulnerable in the mode of performance. Looking for some form of realism through the movement. A way to express the human condition.
There you go.
That's what I'd like to do. But I no longer am in the performance zone myself, personally. So I try to help people find whatever it is that they want to say through the movement.
Outstanding. Well, Carolina, we are not going to keep you. I would love to sit there and keep chatting with you. I mean, it's stories. She can tell a story.
Right?
I like that. Thank you for having us out.
Thank you for interviewing me. I enjoyed it very much.
Oh, we appreciate you so much.
Lovely, May. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Alrighty. All right, folks.
Thank you.
We are going to shut this one down, folks. Thank you for watching.